Hey everybody, what's up? It's MJ and welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. This is our season finale. I think I should mention that. Super excited because my guest today is a sommelier, go figure. And though, she is Esquire magazine's Beverage Director of the Year, Madeline Maldonado. Madeleine was born and raised in Hoboken, New Jersey. And she was guided by her parents' passion for entertaining and hospitality. She caught the wine bug while catering for a private wine collector who exposed Maddie to the nuances of tasting wine. This led to a passion for reading, tasting, and researching wines. Madeline has an extensive background working as a somm in restaurants and also in the retail side of the business. She was manager and sommelier for James Beard Award-winning chef Jonathan Waxman restaurant, Jams. And then from there, Eataly called, and when Eataly called, you come, and she went and served as beverage director for the 400-plus bottle wine list. Maddie is currently bringing her journey through beverage, wine, and hospitality as beverage director to the fine Italian restaurant Da Toscano in New York's West Village. I'm so excited to welcome Madeline to the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm happy to be here.
Oh my God. And this is one of those things where, again, if you've been following the show, we connected kind of through Instagram. Maddie has a good friend, Cattell. Got to shout you out.
Yeah,
She's been
Cattell.
awesome.
Salt of the earth.
Yeah.
The
And
Lord.
she's like, hey, I think I know some people who'd be good for your podcast. And you were one of them. And we had some emails going. And I'm just so glad you're here.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and I feel honored. The season finale,
Season finale.
right?
we finished with the best. The end of the year, it just worked out like that. So, Beverage Director of the Year, tell us what we're drinking tonight.
Okay. So we settled on two wines, a white and a red.
And I just got to
So-
say, she's an overachiever. She brought 4 bottles. So anyway, we settled on a white and a red.
I like options. When you dine with me, I'll also do the same thing. So I think I'm. It says a lot about me across the board.
Yeah.
So we have here the Ganavat from Jura, Le Aliou, or means elsewhere. This is a wine super fascinating because he started sourcing from a lot of vineyards due to climate changes and hail. He and his sister just kind of started working with other producers or sourcing from other producers. So this is Riesling from Alsace that he has sourced from, I think, Marcel Dice, and a little Savagnin. So we're talking skin contact, a little RS. He's super non-interventionist and specific with his wines. No sulfur. Let the wine do its thing. I mean, he's been known to sometimes age even whites or, is up to like 11 years or, on skin contact, etc. So, as natural as you can get.
Nice. And then you are gracing us with the red as well.
Yeah. So another one of, I would say put this in probably in my top 5 wines you have that kind of change your trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Oga Riffaut Le Picasse 2014 Chinon, which is 100% Cabernet Franc, which is one of my, favorite red varietals.
Very nice. So we're drinking well tonight, but it's kind of what we do on the show. But so Jersey.
Yeah.
Jersey's in the house.
Jersey.
I'm from Jersey. I'm from the Jersey Shore.
I love it.
And you're from Hoboken.
That's right.
You guys know who else is from Hoboken? Well, lots of people. But the second most famous person besides Madeline would be Frank Sinatra.
Sinatra. Yeah.
And I used to work in Hoboken, actually. I worked at Sparrow back in '99.
Wow.
I was assistant wine director. I helped them open the
I
shipyard
was
store.
going to say that's probably when it opened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
no,
amazing.
he had the Washington Street store.
Washington Street was first.
First,
I
yeah.
always thought
Yeah,
Shipyard was
Washington
first, and that
Street
was second.
first.
Ah.
And then he owned the Brass Rail. I don't know if he still does.
Yeah.
Across the street.
Uh-huh.
And he had the little Cuban place.
La Isla.
Yeah,
Yeah,
La
yeah,
Isla
yeah.
was his. And then he was opening, so he's opening the shipyard location and Brass Rail at the same time. So I got to stock that store at wines. That was a fun thing. And then I moved to California 3 months later. But anyway,
That's amazing.
that's my story in a nutshell. But we're from Jersey.
That's right.
Jersey's in the house. People sleep on Jersey.
I agree.
Like so many dope people from Jersey.
Dope people are from Jersey. A
Uh,
lot.
Yeah, I know.
Not just ourselves, right?
No, I mean, like really dope people. So tell me, like, your parents used to entertain? So, like, what were you, little Maddie, and you were running wines? I mean, what was that like?
Right, pretty much. So mom and dad from the Dominican Republic came, mom by way of Newark and then wound up in Hoboken, out of all places. So we did a lot of. My mom has always been the cook. She has 8 brothers and sisters. She's always been kind of known as like the one who throws down with the food. They all kind of do. They're all phenomenal on that side of the family. But my mom has always been the one who's kind of just overdoes. So Thanksgiving and, all of those big celebrations had a tendency to happen at my mom's, at our parents, sorry. So essentially I was always like behind her, like in her way kind of, but like intrigued. So she's like trying to move and put things in the oven. And there I am like a little kid, like, can I help you? Can I help you? And, at first it was like, you're going to get cut. You're not, you can't, you're going to get burnt. She was always very overprotective. And then I remember one day, I think we were waiting for guests to come in. And I grabbed, like, she's putting liquor together. And I remember, like, passing her, like, rum bottles from the cabinet because I knew where everything was. And she was like, what are you doing? You're a child. Like, you're not supposed to go anywhere near this. And I was like, if that didn't, like, speak to my destiny, I don't know what. I was, like, probably, like, 8, 9 years old. And, like, here you go. Like,
Did it speak to your destiny because it was liquor or because you're like, you just do your own thing? Or a little bit of both?
I think a little bit of both,
Independent, right?
I think the whole sense of just... It always felt, and the only way I can compare it, because I think working in the business, I've worked with a lot of people who've done theater.
Yeah.
And they always talk about how, like, the element of service and getting ready for it is a lot like a show.
Yep.
It's, the production stage,
Yep.
so I think there was a sense of just me always seeing that, like, in the mundane of what life was as a kid. You go to school, blah, blah, blah. You're just like, oh, okay, so now there's something to look forward to. And there's food to prepare. There's a table to set. There's chairs to put out. There's... all these things that came along with hosting that I think I kind of, welcomed.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. It's so funny you said that. I just watched on Netflix the thing about Andre, the Asian chef. He was a special. He had 3 stars and he shut his restaurant and gave them stars back. Oh, wow. I have to figure out what the name of it. But you're looking at the service, like, the meeting, like, it's like you said, it's like entertainment. It's like setting. It's like a set, right? Like they're making sure the table's taut and the knife is everything's in the right place and the glasses are polished perfectly. I'm like, people don't get and that and I think that is one of the things that people don't necessarily see. Like why like you said, there's so many really highly intelligent and creative people who work in hospitality and wine. Like people who could do tons of other things, like Robert Bohr, he could have went to like an Ivy League law school. I mean, people just Jordan is why. I mean, just everybody I know who's in James Molesworth. The guy's like got like 5 PhDs. No, he doesn't have one, but he's a smart guy. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're like how'd you end up here? And I think because people don't get like it just gives you this opportunity to create something, an experience for people. So it's really cool that you got that at an early age.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very cool. So. I mean, like, what was your like first job in the business? Like,
Yeah. So I went to school in Jersey City, St. Dominic Academy.
Okay.
And so I remember, we would take the sophomore year on, we would take the bus, a couple of us that lived in Hoboken, and we kind of all would, have the buddy system. And I would be walking on Washington Street, which is the main street, and we stumbled across this really cute catering storefront called The Secret Ingredient.
Okay.
And they had a little handwritten help wanted sign, and I was all of 16 years old, 15 going on 16. And me and my friend, we were just like, well, let's go in there. That place looks kind of cool. So we both went in there in our little uniforms and, hi, are you guys hiring? And, spoke to the owners. And it was like, yeah, sure, come back whatever next week. And I remember just being absolutely frightened and terrified like my first week because I had, again, it's one thing to do it at home, but like this kind of opened up the door to like, gourmet food and, just the rhythm of service. I remember like my first shift, I had to be there at like 6:30 in the morning because they opened at 7 and getting coffee ready and pastries and this whole rhythm of just like, oh my God. And then they had a really nice operation of catering that they also did for private events. And one of the owners used to be in the fashion business. So during Fashion Week, that was a major like round the clock breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I kind of, as terrified and like as scared as I was, like the owner and I connected, and he kind of took me under his wing, and I remember just kind of learning and moving along with them, and just super cool.
Nice. So that's that, again. Here you go. Just experiences. So you're 16 years old and you're like doing parties for Fashion Week.
Yeah. Kind of crazy.
I mean, it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's pretty bananas.
And also kind of, it opened up this door of possibility because we did a lot of private events, so holiday parties, and we would go to people's homes and we put in, anniversary parties and this, and you're like standing in these homes that you're like, I've only seen stuff like this in television. What? How many floors is this? Oh yeah, and the wine cellar's here, and we have 5, cars parked in our driveway, and we have people who are a whole staff that's going to work with you, and you're just like, wow, it's crazy.
Right, and I think that exposure, that's huge. That's huge. I think about that with myself, but that's crazy. And so you're working there. How long did that gig last?
Yes, so working there all pretty much through graduation, going into college, and then unfortunately the store closed. It shut down abruptly, and I was kind of just like figuring out, wasn't sure what I was doing. I had gone to Rider University. I'd come back. I was like, school. What do I do? What do I go back? I wasn't sure what I was studying. So lo and behold, around the corner, Anthony David, who was another somewhat of accomplished chef here in the city, opened up a catering storefront as well with a restaurant. So he kind of had his eyes on me because somebody I used to work with kind of said, oh, Maddie's kind of like, catering. She's like the events girl, she's it. So you should talk to her. And then we connected. And then from that point on, I kind of did a lot of his private events. And his private events kind of went larger scale. So like where ours were at Secret Ingredient were a little bit more intimate. He had a lot of like, weddings. And he kind of started creating more, 100-person events. So kind of went from there to there.
Wow. Okay.
From a small scale to a larger scale.
So you do that. Yeah. And then what really cool happened there? Because there's always something cool happened, right?
Yeah. So that's where I kind of say now I'm all of 20, 21 years old, max, barely drinking age. And he sends me to the shipyard, where your old stomping grounds. Yep. There was a wealthy couple who had just moved in, and they had purchased 2 units pre-construction. They moved in from San Fran, flew in their designer to Hoboken. They made pretty much like bespoke, like gutted the house, knocked the wall down, and one of the things they built was a 1,000-bottle wine cellar.
Shut the front door.
To this day, it's been 20 years,
so cool.
And I'm just like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. You go in, and it's like this beautiful, beautiful, like stunning view of the Hudson. There's a little baby grand piano, and all of a sudden, you just like imagine this with like,
oh,
that's exactly what it sounded
Holy Grail
like.
music, but you see it, right?
Pretty much. And I remember, like, on our way to the event, because he was super busy at this time. It was actually, I think it was during the holidays. He's like, okay. He's like, Mads, this is a big one. We can't, this is, like, huge. We hit this out of the park with these people. Like, they're going to be our customers forever. Like, big deal. And, of course, like, the nerves start sinking in. So he basically set me up with food, and I kind of continued the rest. So they threw, like, a very intimate party, like 15 people, lots of wine and lots of, and I was just like, oh my God, I didn't know how I did. And then he called me the next day and he said, hey, by the way, great job. They called and said no one else is to come to their house to do any of their functions. Like, you are their point person. They loved you. They're very particular. You're their girl. And I remember like that moment of like, holy crap, like these are pretty big deal people. Right. So now I'm, working and going to their home about once a week, at least, twice a month at minimum. And it's, all the wines. He was very detailed, and whatever the menu he had Anthony make the menu, and then the wines would follow suit. So, you think he would beat me with the 4 bottles because it's, a bottle per course, and he'd have everything decanted in the glasses. So now, we start to getting cool. And at the end of the events, when I'm like breaking things down, he would show up with like 2 glasses and go, oh, you know what? You should try that. That's Pinot Noir from California, and that's Pinot Noir from France. What do you think? And I'm like swirling with him in the kitchen going, this is pretty cool. I was like, I think this one's better, right? And I was like pointing to the Burgundy. He's like, yeah. Like, he was so, like the enthusiasm, like, yes. And I just remember like at that point, just going to wine stores, reading books, right. Just kind of like a sponge, just like, oh my God, I want to learn more about
what
this.
Was like your first wine book?
Good one. What is the Karen McNeil book? What is that? It's not the wine. It's like the Wine Bible.
Wine Bible?
So it was a cross between Karen McNeil and Kevin Raleigh's Windows of the World.
Oh, you're fancy. Mine was Wine for Dummies. And I think that was Dustin's first book. That's a great book. That's Mary Ewing McMullen.
Yeah.
That
That's
book is
a great
dope,
book.
man.
Yeah, it is.
But you fancy. She went right for the Windows of the World course. I'm like, I remember I was on the subway with the Wine for Dummies, and someone said, oh, I don't know that program. They thought it was WinE. They thought it was like a programming language book.
What? Oh my God.
Oh yeah, no, that's cool. So you start reading, you're studying, you nailed the Burgundy, and just you guys know me, I love California wine. So Burgundy's not necessarily better than California.
Right. Yeah. No offense to California.
No. I know. I'm just I like it all. We're drinking French stuff today. I mean, come on.
I like it all too.
Yeah. So this must have been the person who like kind of introduced you to wine. This client of yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that what's important in the story is because we always I think that there are so many stops that we make along the journey here, and I want to say like it all first starts at home. My mom's cooking, like my palate. Definitely, I picked up from her.
Sure.
My exposure to, the Epicurean or gourmand world, secret ingredient. The exposure to wine, working for Jim and I think like all of these little things are super, super pivotal in our,
nice.
The sum of, right? Where the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, as they say.
Yeah, they do say that.
Yeah. When it comes to this stuff, I think it applies,
No, life is cumulative.
Yeah,
right?
completely.
So it really is.
Completely.
Because, if X doesn't, X happens and Y happens and it sets off like a domino. So it does. And I do find, though, because I had Shakira on, I do find that people who come from like the Caribbean, you've been exposed to more flavors than the average American.
True.
Just
right.
different,
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I had a mango till I was like 20 something, you know what I mean? Like, we had bananas, oranges, and apples, and canned fucking pineapple and heavy syrup. Like
clink peaches.
Clink peaches, so I think, like what's a tamarind? Like I do think, I think there is something about coming from cultures that have a lot of different diverse flavors that really, like when you talk about stepping stones, like you grew up with different flavors that you're able to build upon.
Yeah. Like as a kid, I remember tasting persimmons, and people are like, "What?" I'm like, "No, I don't."
Yeah, that was also
think
probably
like,
didn't have persimmons, so I was like 30 in California.
Right.
You know what
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. They're not tropical.
No.
But I don't know where my mom got this, like, again, really incredible when it comes to like, that stuff. Because she's very seasonal. And I remember, like, in the fruit basket, there's mangoes.
Mom's is the original. Your mom's like the original, like, farm to table. Like, she's seasonal in her cooking and eating, right?
Yes. Oh, my God. She so is. She was doing farm to table before it was hip.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that,
It's so funny. So you're like you got a great track going. You're just tracking beautifully.
Yeah.
What happens? Like, so you're learning about wines, you're digging wines, and then what kind of happens next?
Yeah. So I had a few stops in Hoboken along the way, bartending and serving. Then I kind of really started to kind of focus in. I'm like, okay, this events are great, but I think I kind of need to, let me figure out. Let me step out and see what I can, do. So. I served at a place called City Bistro in Hoboken, bartended at a sushi restaurant called Sushi Lounge, or Sushi House, rather, because the sushi chef came from Sushi Lounge. And at that point, I was just like, okay, this is great. I'm learning, but I need more. So this is 15, 16 years ago, I reached out because a few people recommended, they're like, why don't you go to wine school? Like, you're really into it. You should kind of really hone in on that. So at that point, a lot of people are like, oh, well, there's ASA, there's Court of Masters, there's WSET. And, I kind of weighed out the options and I went with WSET and I got certified there.
Okay.
And I remember just at that point on, just like, okay, now I felt ready to kind of really step out into the world more.
How far along did you go with WSET?
Just the intro, certified sound, that's it.
There's an interesting... a few people I've had on the show, but like Andre, yourself, just the first level.
That's it.
He's like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I do think, a lot of conversation going on about diversity in the business right now, but I do think a lot has to do with you got to be built for hospitality. First of all, it's it's a tough
Amen.
gig. You got to be
It's
just
not
because
easy.
you got just because like going to college, just because you got degrees doesn't necessarily mean you're I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You got to be built for it. And I said this before. I think I said it on the episode with Shakira. Like I was never a server. I was like growing up. Grew up in Monmouth County. There was no way I was waiting on fucking white people. It wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. Like I worked in the kitchen. I'd rather work in the kitchen. And I learned to hit on a knife and cook.
Right.
But there's no way. I couldn't see myself at that point in my life, 18, 19, late 80s. Like yes, sir. And I just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
You know. But and I'm kind of built for this, and I knew I could do that. You know what I'm saying? So that's great. So yeah, so I think because I see a lot of people, you see them on the gram, love everybody, but people are chasing and that's in their profile. I'm WSET 2, WSET 3. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, but like, first of all, there's not a lot of jobs like this, like you've had like out there for one, and then two, like just because you got the paper doesn't mean you're necessarily going to get the gig.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, I still to this day, because, I've been asked my whole career, like, what do well, you don't want to go for the advanced, you don't want to do master, you don't want, and it's just like, yeah, I respect that. I understand the level of preparation and, what do you call there's a saying that says success isn't about what you gain, it's about what you gave up to become successful. And I've seen people who have they and their partners have taken the journeys, and you have to leave work and the expense, the outlay for wines and traveling and the 20 hours study. I mean, that is real, and I respect those people amazing. But I've always said why I do what I do is this. If I lose the day, I lose this because I'm this cerebral person who needs to sit in a room and just lecture. Like that's not it. I mean, I think this is about conversation, and it's about people and connections, and that is the core of hospitality. And I've always said, I think one of the biggest tools a somm could have aside from their palate and their wine key is your ears.
Yeah.
Listen to people.
Yeah.
You got 5 minutes to be a psychologist, play detective, but be nice.
Right.
But have do the I've got 5 minutes to do all of it. First table. Oh, good. What are you drinking? What are you eating? And some people are just like, oh, the somm's here. Like, oh. Well, I don't really like, and they start with the whole because they're just like the fear.
Right.
And then some of those people you have to know, okay, well, they're trepidatious. So let me just pour them something really fun that they never would think they like, and let me go decant that bottle on that other table. Oh, the server needs me to void something. Oh, let me go get this at the host. I've got people who are waiting for it's being able to balance all of that all night while not losing your cool.
Yeah.
Good luck.
That's dope. We're gonna dive a little deeper in that. Hopefully, if I remember, with 2 bottles of wine. But so you decide on getting some education. Get your degrees, because they can never take away your papers, is what they tell us.
That's the truth.
Baby, they can't take away your paper.
I want that on a T-shirt.
I know.
Can't take away your papers.
I think I'm gonna sell that one. I'm like Andre. Andre got me thinking, what T-shirt can I sell?
Oh, I know. I love his T-shirts.
Yeah, his T-shirts are dope. So you make this pivot towards wine.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you get certified. What happens next?
So,
Ish.
Again, why I brought the Rioja, I think because of the language, speaking Spanish, my first language, and I just kind of naturally started gravitating towards Spanish wines.
Yeah.
Also growing up too, a little fun fact, my dad worked as a butcher in the Chauffeur Kosher meat plant. So my dad, we are born and raised Catholic. He worked as a kosher butcher in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Man's got to work.
Yes, right. So growing up as a kid, that the other piece of the gastronomic journey is, a lot of people that he worked with were from Portugal and Spain. Yeah. So Ironbound section was like a big thing of like going to dinners there. So I remember the piece of, as a kid, being exposed to paellas and gambas al ajillo and, that whole world of Spanish. So I think it kind of felt very natural.
Right.
So naturally I'm getting into Spanish wines, Rioja. And somebody who I know from class mentioned, if you like Spanish wines, you should go check out Tinto Fino. It's super cool. It's under the radar. It's women-owned boutique wine store in the East Village. Go check it out and see what you think. So again, another one of those moments of just like, you know what? Let me go check out. I had never been to the store. I was like, let me go see what it's about. So I walked in, super cute. They have these like, they had all these mirrors with like, the regions like Galicia and Sherry and, with the smoky, like you feel that very Catalan vibe. And I walked in, the two girls, Ashley and Stephanie, were behind the counter. Stephanie actually, do you know the book Sweet Bitter? That came out. That was like a part like memoir, part food journey, or I think it's I mean, I would say is it creative fiction but anyway, it chronicles some of her life, like coming to New York, and she worked for Danny Meyer. She also worked there. I remember meeting them and just being like, hey, like, are you guys hiring? And they were just like, actually, we might be. And it's just kind of a conversation, we connected for like 20, 30 minutes. I pointed out a Perón. I saw those pourers that they use in Spain to kind of drink. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, I saw that like Anthony Bourdain had that on his show. That's so cool. And they were just like, oh, okay. They're like, well, can you come in like next week? Like, let's come in and train and see what happens. So I remember, starting there. I was like working weekends. And just super amazing. Like my first day of work, I think like an hour into being at the shift, she's like, pick any bottle that's $50 and under from any section, and let's taste and talk. And they had these like volumes of Spanish wine books.
So
and
what year was this?
Great question. My goodness, 2008, 9.
Yeah, I mean, because contextually, let's think about it. I just want to put that in context for listeners. Like,
no, maybe even further than that. We're in 2020.
Yes.
So I had to do the math.
We are
there.
in 2020.
Oof. Yeah, like 06 or 07. Okay. Somewhere between 06 and 08. I think that's my final answer.
No, I like that.
I like to be precise when I can.
Just because, like, wine has exploded since then, and like, so like, I mean, even today, a $50 Spanish wine like can kick the teeth out of like $200 bottles of wine from California. And I love California, but so like even back then, you're talking like pretty high end stuff. Yeah, almost, you know what I mean? Like,
right. But then they also had a really cool section of like, $20 and under value wines that you would, every day, like, a $10 bottle of, Monastrell that we sold. Like, I mean, literally. It's
I see your $10 Monastrell, and I raise you from 1999 when I worked at Sparrow, the $3.99 Protocolo, which is fucking delicious.
Delicious, yeah.
I mentioned that on another episode. Somebody went out and bought it. He was like, "Why are you so excited to try a $5 bottle of wine?" He's like, "Because the black wine." He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe
good.
for." It was $3.99. It might even been $2.99 back in. I mean, like stupid good. But anyway, yeah.
And I think that Protocolo, weren't they responsible for like one of the first in like creating the DOC of Ribera del Duero?
Probably because
or Toro
they were
Ribera del Duero.
I'm trying to think who. I mean, Toro is a big Jorge Ordonez project. Mm-hmm. I love Toros. But yeah, so that's cool. So you know what? I want to hear about this bottle of wine, but we have to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and tell me about that $50 or less bottle you had on a Saturday.
I love
All right?
it.
Okay. Okay, we're back. So tell me about this bottle of wine you picked out. Because you probably remember the bottle to this day. Yeah,
it was a Monsant wine. It was. It had a really cool label. It was like blue. I think it was like. Honestly, I think this bottle was like $25. Cellar Masroish. It was like Monsant. Another reason I love it is because it's got a lot of those Rhone varietals. It was like Syrah, Carignan, Grenache, and like super cool. It had all this like blue fruit, but it had like tannin and texture, and we just talked and tasted, and it was just like, oh my God, this is great. And then fast forward to a few months now, I'm kind of working more because the owner also had a restaurant as well that she owned. So the girls were being pulled away in that direction, and then they had a new partner that came in, by the name of Karen Oth, who worked for Ordonez for a long time. She was on the distribution sales side, and she came in. She lived in the East Village, so she was able to be more present. Mani had just had a baby, so she's taken time away, the restaurants. So now Karen steps in and kind of just comes in and like, not only like does she bring in this whole new world of Spanish wines, but she brought in the Spanish wine culture like to the umpteenth power. So she's vivacious and like has this great following, and like now our Saturday wine tastings kind of feel more like a wine bar vibe. People are hanging out and the store's bustling, and she kind of takes me under her wing, and we start learning more. And we all got a chance to travel to Spain together with her too, which was pretty incredible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we did all northern Spain, País Vasco, which is like, oh my God, one of my favorites. San Sebastian, Navarra, Rioja. We did it all. So it was quite like the experience. I still to this day, I kind of during this time of year. So our first Christmas together, she was actually all ladies that worked at the store too, which was pretty amazing. So she set up for Christmas. She said, I'm going to surprise you girls. I'm going to tell you what we're doing. So she says, meet me at the store Sunday at 8:00. So she opens up this gorgeous bottle of a traditional method bubbles from Chacolina area, Getario.
Okay.
We were there. So we have this awesome, like, obscure bottle. Then she takes us to this boutique. We go down the stairs. They're closed, and it's a hat store. And she says, the reason you're at this hat store is because so many of you wear so many hats and to run my business. So I'm here so you guys can, like, pick out custom hats. So we're like, have this. I know. It's like, oh, I literally, like, I could tear up just thinking about, like, how the incredible, like, that love. And then we had dinner at Mama Fuku, and then we went out for drinks. I mean, till this day, I've never had a Christmas, and it was only about 6 of us, but just to have that kind of Christmas, like, gathering with staff, and that's, like, where you go, wow, this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty, nobody ever bought me a hat. Custom hat. That's dope as hell.
Yeah, right?
No, I was like, it's like, so, like, you guys, we're going to release these before the pours, but now I see why you like that movie so much. Your favorite movie. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Big purple hat. Top hat. What hat did you get? Did you get a big purple top hat?
No, actually, right? You would think. No, I actually got everybody kind of went like, derby hat, this, and my hat was, and she said your hat fit you. It was like this, like, kind of like white, like, kind of really cool, like, cashmere material. And it had this fedora style. And that was it. It was like, not white, it was like oatmeal colored. Super cool. And that was it. It was like simple, but,
That's
to the
so
point.
Cool.
Yeah. I still have it, as a matter of fact.
I was going to say, do you still have the hat?
Yeah, I should have brought that. I should have worn the hat today.
All right, here's what you got to do. You got to take a picture with the hat when we drop the episode. You got to be like, my episode dropped. This is my dope ass hat. Oh my God. So, all right. So that's it. So I guess, do you end up becoming manager of that place? I mean, what happens next?
Yeah. So while I had started working at Tinto Fido, I was also bartending and somming at Lila Bar, which is a wine bar in the West Village on the corner of Hudson and Leroy.
You like the dope neighborhood. She's like Lila Bar, and you're just hanging out in the village.
Yeah. But all of these things, like, it's I think it's the universe. Like,
well, I agree.
Yeah. The Lila Bar, it was Craigslist. Craigslist, I found it was like, oh, looking for
a Craigslist.
Yeah, it was like a job post. Remember the job
post
at Craigslist?
No, that used to be
old school.
Old school. Oh my God,
old school, right?
So cool.
I could still, So it was like, oh, looking for part-time bartender, intimate wine room, West Village, and I was like, this sounds cool. I showed up to the interview. It was again another one of those they do, which I do like the idea of a trail, like. It's you go 3 hours. I think it works. I think it makes everything better, easier for everybody because it's like, let's see if this fits.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So they have this like round oblong bar. Interesting because there's no like little door to get in and out. So you're literally like leaning down.
You got to duck under.
Dunk under every time. So imagine years of that on your back. There's no kitchen. It's everything is prepared underneath, and he's got this like custom made like little cheese coves because it wasn't like a full kitchen, but it was a lot of charcuterie and stuff like that. So yeah, I got asked. It was like a whole, I don't know, a group of 4 or 5 of us that interviewed. We tasted, and then we trailed. And I was kind of the one asked to come back. So now I've got both. I've got they somebody nicknamed me like the Village Wine Girl. Because they're like, you got the East Village Spanish stuff. You're, on the weekends.
That's
you're
a T-shirt
for
you, Village Wine Girl.
Yeah, right.
Do like a silhouette with your dope hair. Village Wine Girl. I'm serious. That's money.
I like, I kind of like that, right? Absolutely.
I like that, Village Wine Girl.
That could be the title of my book, my wine book.
Yeah, exactly.
Village Wine Girl.
Exactly. You should. That is a good title.
Something to think about.
Something to think about.
Right.
We got things popping off on the Black Wine Guy Experience. I like that. Okay, so you're Village Wine Girl. You you shone above the rest. You show and prove, and you got invited back, and then
Got invited back, so I'm kind of, juggling both jobs, etc. And the wine director now, I'm kind of into this for a while, and they're leaning on me a lot for things. And the wine director at the time, Andrew, I didn't realize he was on his way moving to Connecticut to go open up his wine bar, which he finally did. And out of the blue, one day I stopped by to pick something up, and the owner was hanging out, and he was just like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" I was like, "Sure." And he's like, "Yeah, just I don't know if you know this. I wanted you to tell you myself. Andrew's like, making his way out, but, instead of, I always like to kind of promote from within, and instead of, looking for talent outside, I wanted to propose it to you first. Like, what do you think of becoming, manager, wine director?" And it was just like, oh my God. Like it's because I never saw myself in that light, and I, especially, when I started kind of getting into hitting my momentum and my stride with both places, comfort, so I'm just like, oh crap. So, it was an opportunity. I couldn't say no. It was heart-wrenching too, because Tinto Fino was like near and dear to my heart too, but I was like, I'm being presented with this opportunity. Let me go see what it brings.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of where my exposure to, wines from all over the world started.
Okay.
Because again, working with specialized regions and countries is great, but I kind of started to dip the toe even more with, working with a global list.
And how many wines did you have on that list?
Oh, 250, 300 easily.
That's nice.
From like some Bordeaux's and a lot of organic natural wines. And they did a really great happy hour, and we sourced like awesome wines for that. And we're like $30 a bottle, $8 a glass. Tasting with the fromager, or the person who was in charge of cheese and education in Murray's, because that's how we would put together even the cheeses on our list. And it was like this really cool, like bespoke experience, because everything was so thoughtful in a place like that. And still to this day, I always say, if I ever get to do a wine bar, I will take some of the just the ideas or the thoughtfulness in everything. So purposeful. The charcuterie, the owner is a wholesale florist, and he has his warehouse in Queens, and he found somebody who specializes in Eastern European charcuterie. So he would have that and deliver that every week. And, the cheeses from Murray's and the wines that we chose. And it was like we really went out of our way to source things that you wouldn't find at a retailer. The experience the Riedel O-line glasses where like one glass can fit the whole bottle. Those were they were 25 ounce. So you get, you're sitting in this sexy dimly lit place, and, you're pouring like wines, and you've got this like beautiful presentation and candlelit, like a very, very cool experience.
Oh my God. I wish I had went there.
Right? It's still there.
Well, it's there, but like it's hard to get into places now. Anyway,
sitting in the middle of sitting in snow.
Yeah, which
to dine.
I totally would do to support restaurants.
Absolutely.
So you now you're really hitting your stride. It seems like.
Yeah.
Just what was the next adventure?
Yeah, the next adventure
for the Village Wine Girl.
Then the Village Wine Girl went to Tribeca.
Okay.
Went to Tribeca to Vestry Wines, which is, funny you say Dustin, which is the same owners when they had Vestry Wine on Vestry Street. Then Sandy happened. They moved to 24 Hubert, which is where Verve is. It became 24 Hubert with another owner, partner, somebody running the store, and then went on with Dustin. They partnered with Dustin to make it Verve.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was an incredible experience too. Cynthia, the wine buyer there, was kind of like really encyclopedia-like knowledge. It was like equal parts wine bar meets really cool cellars. So the owners modeled it after a store in San Francisco. So it had like this like walk-in wine cellar, custom-made shelves. Everything was custom. A gorgeous building. Meryl Streep lived in the building. Gwyneth Paltrow lived in the building. It was one of those, like, it was on the ground floor, kind of just like similar to Sparrow in the shipyard.
Right.
Same thing. So very cool. Like at that point, like, I thought that I was like, okay, I hit the wine stride, but then now what I learned so much from there is like we were tasting constantly. The selections of like the $20 and under wines were always like really well curated. So you had reps dropping in all the time. We did a lot of stuff for the events, for like the area. Like we would donate like tastings and events, come to the store for like the kids who were in school, etc. So we started kind of building this like really great following, incredibly well curated list. And then Hurricane Sandy happened, which, you know, the store at that point, we're going in to like put pieces together in the store, generator, it's cold. A lot of the residents of the building have now like, you know, had to go move to get everything together. And then that's kind of where I took a little pause and went back to, you know, Hoboken, to Bin 14, wine bar in Hoboken on with the same owner I work with, Anthony David. Okay. So he had just opened up a wine bar. I think Bin 14 had been open maybe at this point 5 years now, three to 5 years. Yeah.
So you mentioned you did a lot of tasting at that shop on Huber Street.
When I was there, it was on Vest Street.
Yeah, Vest Street. Right. Yeah, when it was on Vest Street, now on Huber. Thank you. Thank you for the Jura. So I'm honing on the tasting because I did read the New York Times article you were featured in with a bunch of other industry professionals of color. And tell me about you mentioned something like when you used to go to tastings when you first came into business.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, so I would say my first foray with tastings and kind of really getting into that was when I was at Tintofino. I had, with Karen, like kind of being my mentor, my guide, she kind of took me more under her wing. And, you know, when you show up and you show up with an OG, you know, it's one of those things. It's like going to the restaurant with a regular. That everybody's like, oh, right. you're with so-and-so. I'll have a seat. Like, you know, it's like, it's different. But then when Lila Bar came into play and I was like solo, I started going into tastings on my own. And, you know, you just, you know, it's like, I always say tastings can kind of be this weird space because it's a lot of wine muscles in a weird way. Like everybody's like at the table, like trying to flex like who they know, and they're hovering over the spittoon, and you're just like, oh my God, like I'm sitting there with the thing like motioning like I'm trying to spit, like you know, and everybody's
You should
crowded.
do what I did. I went to a big tasting one time and just knocked the spit bucket over somebody.
Oh.
It wasn't on purpose, but I was like, it was like, yo. I was like, yo, what's up? It's just all over this dude. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, no, it is. There is that. And I tell people like that was like my first shop I worked at was Acker Merrill. So if you go somewhere John Capon, it was like, okay, he knows wine. It was didn't have that issue per se. You know, then when I left there, it's about, fortunately a lot of the people knew me, so it's still one thing. But there can be these awkward moments. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I mean, lots of awkward moments. So, you know, at Lila Bar, I'm kind of stepping out more on my own to taste and going to tastings and reps, or, you know, and when you walk in and it's just like, it's you feel lonely if you're walking in by yourself. There's still like this weird feeling of just, it almost feels like it's equivalent to going to the school dance when you're in grade school. Like, oh my God, like the cliques are here and who's there, and I'm walking in by myself. And should I go say hello to them? But I can't linger because I'm not with that crew, and, you know, I'm not with that. Right. So there's a lot of that. And like, I just remembered like, you know, everybody being at the table and, you know, talking about, oh my God, you know, the southeast facing slopes on a bedrock of limestone and this flinty minerality. And then I show up and I'm just like, oh, may I taste? And it's just like, this is the Sauvignon Blanc and it's from, and they're like dumbing it down. And I'm just like, I can hang with this, you know, southeast facing 60-year-old vine, you know, schist soil conversation you're having. I can hang with it. You know, and there's a lot of
this. This is a white wine. It's made from grapes.
Right. Or a lot of, and I just also remember too, just a lot of questions being asked, like, where do you work? What do you do? Where do you work? And, you know, and like, and then all of a sudden when you give a card, it's like, oh, okay, like you're cool. It says wine director or manager. It's like, oh, you're cool. And it's just like, but I wasn't cool before.
She's one of us. Yeah. So like, but I mean, like how? So clearly you've navigated that. But it is there. Like that's where the black wine guy. When I coined this name for Instagram, was just like in '99. Like you think there's no people like in '99. Like I go to tasting, I was the only black person up in that piece.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because they didn't want to say, like, there was a guy, he helped me with wine, he had glasses, and they're like who? And they're like, you know, 5 people in the store have glasses. Like they don't want to say black.
Black.
They don't want to see braces.
So they say everything
Yeah,
but
everything,
that.
yeah. He's got a great smile. I'm like,
She's a really nice girl. Nice girl.
Yeah, exactly. She's a really nice girl. Just great attitude.
Cool hair.
Yeah, she's got cool hair. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So but then like I mean, you're like, so you're at the store. You're stepping out on your own. You're having some little couple. And that's the thing I think people need to understand. Like, if you're a person of color, if you're going to do something in this world, you're gonna be slighted. You just gotta, I hate to say it, but part of that has to slide off you, because that's just like, I mean, the first and the few are gonna, they say the first person through the door is gonna get punched in the face, right? Like,
it's the truth. Oh my God.
I was watching something about Jackie Robinson last night, and I was like, you forget, like, oh my God, man, that guy died at 53. He had such a burden carrying, you know what I mean? But so then, you got you've had great gig after great gig, like you and Lee. You're just like, I had a great gig, and I had a great gig, and I had a great gig.
Right, but I'm so glad you touch upon being black in that world, because don't think that I wasn't the only black. Sometimes the only woman. Sometimes and the list goes on and on. The first only, like in those rooms, and when I stood behind that bar and I made those recommendations, and when I stood in the middle of that store, or people kind of, it's again like the duality. I think that I have to say it's one of these things of like the opposite sides of the same coin. Like, there's amazing things that have happened, but there's also the not great things that come with it, and they're both the same. It's part of the experience.
Exactly. I say there's, no matter how thin you slice it, there's two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
And so like one of the things like I'm a wine geek. I like to go to wine stores and look around, and people start sweating you, So then I start just dropping like I just start dropping cult wines I know they don't have, so they leave me alone, right?
Right.
I'm
right.
Just sip off it.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like,
yeah.
I'm like, you got any? I'm like, you got any Screaming Eagle? Like, I just say just crazy shit.
Right.
Leave me alone, man. I'm actually looking. But no,
got any Ganavat?
Right, exactly right.
They'll leave you alone then.
Exactly right. I'm like, or like we could even say, go to average store and say, you have any Jura?
Right. Yeah.
And it's just funny how, and for all this business, I think people don't understand. Most people who work in a liquor store, which is where most people buy wine, don't know a lot about wine. That's the crazy thing too, right? Like,
absolutely.
Like, I had a buddy call me. I don't know if this happens to you, but my buddies call me and like, hey, I'm at a store. What should I get? And I'm like, just look for this importer. Like, we have a Louis Dresden. I'm like, anything with Louis Dresden is going to be good. Anything with Kermel is going to be good. Like, anything with Michael Skurnick is going to be good, right? So like, he was in the store and he said, what do you got for Michael Skurnick? And the guy was like, he's just an importer. I'm like, see, that guy doesn't know shit about wine, because like. He's just an importer. You know, Helen Turley's just a winemaker. I mean, It's like
right. It is the same. Yeah.
What
does that mean?
Wait, like, you obviously don't know shit about wine, bro.
Stevie Wonder. He's just a musician.
He's a musician. He's a blind guy, plays a harmonica. What? Happens every day.
Right. Exactly.
He's got nothing on that fat guy from Blues Traveler. So given that these things do happen, and I also think you read in there, like, I think the funny one is though when people like think you don't know about wine, like that's I love flexing. Like, I'm like, I forgot more about wine than you'll probably ever know, bro.
Amen. And it's the truth for those of us we have forgotten more than we know at this point.
Yeah. But like, was there a point where like you're like, fuck this shit, I had enough, I think I'm done with the restaurant business? I mean, did you have a moment? Do you have moments like that?
Yeah. Oh, I've had several moments where it's that, but I know that there is no safe. What is the safe industry for a woman and a woman of color? Yeah. I mean, hey, we got Kamala in the White House, so now. But don't think that she's not going to encounter on that level.
No, you want Sandra Sotomayor's job. That's the job you want. You can't get fired.
Oh man,
that's you want Clarence Thomas' job. You don't want to be Clarence Thomas, but you want his job. You know what I mean? Like, you can't get fired. That's You know what, boys and girls out there, you want to become a Supreme Court justice. It's the best job for a person of color or a woman. You can't be fired.
Yeah.
So,
ouch.
Anyway,
True story.
But you're right. Like, what else is there?
Yeah. What else is there? You know? Yeah.
There isn't. And but I think how you bulletproof yourself, you'd be so good they can't ignore you.
That's correct.
I think that's really, really important. And again, we mentioned earlier, and it's not just in the paper you have. Like, it is connection. It's communication. Like you said, like you're a psychologist and the deep listening. Robert Bohr was on here, and he's like, he saw veterans like. You're anticipating what someone's thinking next, like where they're going to go. Like people don't like that's and those are the intangibles that like they don't teach that in any course that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I don't. Yeah, that's the thing. They can't be taught. Like, I think I can teach you to maybe discern. Like, if as a server, I can teach you the difference to what you should look out for when you're tasting a Sauvignon Blanc versus a Cabernet Sauvignon. But I can't teach you how to be hospitable. I can't teach you how to care. I can't teach you to take ownership. I can't teach you to read your taste. Those are things people realize. Like, and it's always the intangibles. Like, you don't realize like when you touch tables and the following that you build and people follow like. And I think I've had this like my whole life because I'm the person that just I work, I show up, I care, I put my all into it, and I this love I can't do it without heart, right? Because
right.
if that was the case, I wouldn't be doing this. And I think a lot of times people don't realize like how much that brings because you can't put a number on it.
Right.
Maddie brings a following of blah blah blah, but then you don't realize like that's been my whole life. I've worked on that my whole life. That's my reputation. And to you may not see it as a number, but to me, it's like this is a lifelong journey, and I will bring that with me wherever I go.
I love that.
Super huge.
Good answer. All right, so I'm gonna fast forward. You want to get on some of this your Cab Franc.
I think it's time.
It's got that wonderful Loire funkiness. What is so Eataly calls?
Yeah, Eataly calls. I think I working for the smaller, wine shops, restaurant, wine bar. I think I kind of said, I haven't tried anything on this scale. A lot of people who know me, they were just like, oh my God, I never envisioned you, going in that direction. But I was like, okay, it's a new store. They were opening up World Trade Center. Some of my regulars were like, oh my God, this space is gonna be great. And I was just like, Italian wines, like, oh my God, like I've never worked with Italian wines and the food and everything about it. And I interviewed at a Starbucks with, who beverage director at the time, Emily Maldonado. She was beverage director for Flatiron and they just brought her into World Trade Center. We hit it off, it was one of those like interviews that felt like a conversation. I started and kind of, worked my way. And what I liked about it too is as huge and as massive as the operation is, there's something that was exciting about one day I would hit three different restaurants in 10, 15 minutes, Okay, let me go check in if they have everything. Let me go pre-shift here. Oh, let me go over to the Food Diversità where they're teaching a pasta making class and go, talk about Sangiovese. Let me get ready for the winemaker that's coming in tonight and we're going to pour out of a Jeroboam and, talk about Sicilian wines. Like it was kind of just like, it really allowed me to kind of explore and be many places, and that was super cool. Kind of very similar to Lila Bar. She was having a baby and was taking a break. And it was like, the beverage director for the Eataly corporate group approached me and was like, hey, you've got some wine shops. We like you. Like, what do you think? Never envisioned it. And then I became the beverage director.
So I think I'm never going to have a baby because that's how I keep getting these jobs.
And then, and a little bit of that too.
You're like, I'm glad I ain't got no kids.
Right?
I'm stupid, but that's
no,
it's true. It's like the third time somebody had a baby. Like, I'll take your job. Not take, but it was offered. That's offered to you.
Yeah.
Because you're so good they can't ignore you. Because you're ready, right? What does Oprah say? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
The
right?
intersection.
I mean, so
yeah.
I think that's really cool. So then. Over a conversation at Starbucks, I can't emphasize how important it is to be able to relate and converse with people.
So important. It's everything.
You know, it is. It's life. I mean, life is communicate. Your life is just a network of conversations.
Yeah.
If you really think about it.
Wow. Profound.
You know, it really is.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability to, and I also think like, as a person of color, like, and you're as a woman, like your ability to communicate on levels with many different people is been a huge factor in success. If I'm looking from a helicopter view, right? Yeah. You know, because, you know, first was a man, and even Lee said, Lee was like, you know, and he says, it was a white man, it was a white man. But the ability to do that and navigate the world as it's laid out before us, I mean, you've done an incredible job. So,
well, thank you. You know, and when I stepped into Eataly, it didn't come with its, you know, people are, you know, looking at me like, oh, the beverage, you know, I remember like, you know, a couple of wine producers that I hadn't met or connected with walking in, and one of my somms was a tall white guy. You know, I was just saying that they always go to the tall white guy for everything in the restaurant. Like, if I pass you, tall white guy. No, I'm just a busboy. Like, nah, you her. She's the one in charge. You know, and I remember him. You know, ciao, my name is so and so. You know, and I'm here to meet. You're the buyer, and he's like, no, this is my boss. It's her right here. And I'm just like standing there, like, ciao. ¿Cómo está? And then you start talking Italian to them, and it's just like freaks
Mind
them.
blown.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
I still enjoy those looks when you start like conversing in Italian with some of them. It freaks them out.
Yeah, I don't know that look because I barely speak English, but I know what I can envision what you're saying.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, I mean, there's that thing too, right? Like, oh my God, so. Like, tell me about something really cool that happened at Eataly. Like, you know, because, like, pretty sick Italian wine collection. A lot of connections to Italy between the people who started that place and the Bastianis. I mean, like.
It is. It's you know, it's honestly, it's like taking an Italian food and wine masterclass. Like, that whole experience, that's what it was. Like, you know, kind of like I said at Tinto Fino, like, you know, when Karen stepped in, now the culture became immersed. Like, you're connecting, like, you know, the leverage of English being my second language. You know, I could start to like hone in more on my Italian and a more conversational beyond, you know, wine regions, learning about foods, learning about regions. You know, Italy is just so fascinating because it's 20 regions that act more like 20 different countries, you know.
Well, that's the thing people don't get about Europe,
Yeah.
right? I mean, like, the region was its own country before.
Yeah.
They just got conquered. Like, it's everywhere.
Right.
You know,
right.
that's just the reality. So, you know, like, yeah, it's funny.
It's funny, yeah.
When you talk to Europeans, it's pretty funny.
It is. Like, Piedmont, you know, with the ingredients you find in Piedmont, like, don't bring them down to talk to a Sicilian about them because they're like, look at you sideways, like, what? Like, no, you know, we got.
And don't tell someone from the mainland that Sicily is part of Italy.
Oh,
they're not having it.
They're not having any of that either.
Yeah,
yes, that's correct.
They're like, no, you have Sicilians in America. Those aren't Italians. They straight up do.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Back in the day, I had an Italian girl. She's like, no, that's not Italian. That's Sicilian. So like
how does that work?
Like, okay.
Right. It was like when I went to the Basque Country in Spain. You know, we're driving through, and they're like, there's. I remember in the middle of like
Spain. That's
oh my God. They were rioting and like political. Like, we are an autonomous people and we speak our own language, and you know, I was like, oh my God, this is intense.
Yeah, and it's funny, like. You started in Spain and then like you ended up in Italy, but I just having a conversation with you, I could see how like you seem so voracious for knowledge and a thirst. Like it kept you going. Would you say like these challenges?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, I guess you can call it part masochist as well too. You know, because a lot of people when I accepted the job, even you know. When I remember one of the GMs kind of, you know, in his Italian like flair with his suit, like, what are you thinking? Do you know what you're in for? Like, did you think about this? And you know, he's like, because it was such a massive undertaking. But again, I think that to me, it's also kind of how my brain works. It's like, okay, I want to learn more, but I'm also here to try to make things better while I'm there. It's the challenges. It's how our brains are kind of fashioned and modeled to be in service, you know. if the things service hospitality isn't about what goes right, it's about how you churn those things that don't go right, how you make them presentable. Caitlin Toscano, one of the owners from Toscano, when I interviewed with her, we were walking to the space, and I'll never forget this because it's something I've always felt. She said, service is like a duck or a swan. She's like, all you see is like when they're on water and they're graceful. And you see them gliding, and it's effortless. She said, but underneath
Their feet are like going all crazy.
She's like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
She's like, that's happening. That's happening in your brain. That's happening in the back. That's happening here. What's broken? The air conditioner broke. We're running behind. They don't like their food. And she's like, but then it's how we glide on that. And I was just like, yes, that's it.
Yeah. So let's talk about Da Toscana, because I think it's, first of all, I did a little research, and like it's an interesting concept because like the owner's like the chef, like he's lived in Guadalajara, so it's like this Mexican infused Italian thing going on there.
It's definitely a story. So Michael and Caitlin, interesting. One of the big things we had in common was we all worked at Eataly. Michael was the executive chef and she was the GM. She's the front of the house person. He's the back of the house. They opened up Monzo at Eataly Flatiron. Eataly Flatiron, how long is it's been 15 years, if not more. So they come with this New York pedigree. He worked at Babbo. He was an executive sous chef there. Then Monzo, and then he got this opportunity at Perla, which is the space that Toscano is in. He partnered with Gabriel Stillman, and he was the executive chef and a partner there. Perla kind of was like the it happening place in the village. Pete Wells kind of acclaimed that Vitello Altonato as kind of like one of the best he's had, and it had that like vibe where it was like they were blaring 90s hip hop, and it was like a cool spot.
That's a theme amongst like a lot of the restaurateurs now. These dudes are like, yo, I grew up on 90s hip hop. We're playing hip hop.
Which I think is, I think
I'm not
it's
mad
amazing.
at. Listen,
right?
I don't know if you go back and watch the episode me and Robert Bohr. We had the whole thing about mid 90s hip hop was the golden era hip hop.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
To
me, there's nothing like it.
No, there isn't. I mean, and Robert pointed out, like, if you look at the albums that came out between like in 18 months and like between 93 and 95, it was fucking ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
So.
Biggie,
Biggie, Nas came out early 93. Yeah. Jay-Z had albums.
Tribe Quest
had, I mean, everybody. De La Soul was still dropping out. People, and this is the thing, everybody was still making fucking albums. Brand Nubian, it was just...
Yeah.
Diamond D. Here we're going another rant. Diamond D.
Yeah, me too.
Gangstar.
Oh, my God.
Guru. Fucking
right?
Premier. Rakim's album came out late 95. Like that Premier...
Was Wu-Tang in that?
Wu-Tang was in there. Of course Wu-Tang was.
Right?
It was like ludicrous. Right. Anyway, so it's
no
just
pun intended.
No, yeah. When I move, you move. Say what? But it's so funny that they also say they had that '90s hip hop vibe, and then they got you in there, and so you're doing this thing, and tell me more about it.
Yeah. So I wasn't a part of the Perla scene.
Yeah,
but I remember like Perla was like the spot.
Right. That was the spot.
Is the spot, and then he and Caitlin they just had their. Again, the theme of having children. Yeah. They had just had their second child. And I think New York was, she worked at Del Posto. She worked at Per Se. She's incredible front of the house person. And they just both kind of said, you know what? Like, we're through with New York. Let's go, raise the family. And they moved to Charleston. They opened up a really amazing place called Le Farfalle. And, they're there. They never thought New York would be a thing. Right. So maybe go back a couple years ago. They would always come back to New York to visit. He's walking through Brooklyn and sees the landlord of the building. So once Perla shut, she never rented it. She was very specific, never rented out. And she was approached by some big names and kind of, shut some people down. She either liked the person or didn't like the concept or vice versa. And she always liked Michael.
That's a nice luxury to have commercial property.
That's what I say too.
I'm not renting to you. I don't like your concept. Like,
right. Or I like you, but I don't like your food.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm not mad at it, but like it's not my life.
Hashtag goals.
Yeah,
hashtag goals.
Exactly. Hashtag real estate goals.
Seriously, man.
Right. But anyway, but she didn't. So it's open.
It's open. It's been open for now, 6 years before Toscano came back in. 5 years easily. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. No, that long. That just goes to show you how she is, and
how flush she is. Anyway, I collected rent for 6 years. But yeah, no, but
is that too.
But I love. But see, there is something I really, really love about that. Like the landlord doesn't want her name attached to some shit that's not dope. That's crazy, right?
I love that.
I love that. Like
Love
I gotta say as I unpack that.
But not to pivot and get too off subject, but that's where I think everybody in the world needs to start to understand the value and the culture that restaurants can bring.
See, now you're not pivoting because that's what this show is about. Deep thinkers. So I mean, speak about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's my heart is hurting right now for restaurants in New York City primarily. With this outdoor thing, and there's parts of it that there's I don't think there's sufficient data to make the decisions that have been made, but they were made. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like, as a restaurant, you follow the rules.
Right.
We're some of the cleanest people. I mean, the letter grades, the A's and the B's you see, that's like, we've been dealing with this since in a pre-COVID world.
Right.
We probably wash our hands and sanitize more. We clean more. We've had to be diligent of those things since before this pandemic.
Right.
So now here we are, kind of feels like we're being punished. And at the end of the day, all of those people, from the dishwasher to the porter to the front, like, we're responsible for their livelihoods. And not only that, you've got people who bring their talent and bring their heart, and some of us are broken in this business, and we come here to be healed. Mm-hmm. The word restaurant in French means to restore, to heal. We come as people that run them and own them to heal ourselves, and then the people that walk in every night that give us that time, and that they're looking for the same thing. So you have a restaurant that like adds to the culture and the life. Builds communities. We are neighbors. We are all of those things. So I say that more for the small restaurants. It's just to show you the weight and the value that they have. And I hope that if nothing else, we can all come out on the other side and understand, what it takes to run a restaurant. And the people behind them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I just got myself overeducated and over leveraged. But like, I love working in restaurants. I wish, it's nothing better than like, you make people happy.
Amen. Yeah.
When they have a good meal and a good bottle of wine, and you smile, and like, people don't get like I said, the most intelligent people weren't the people I went to law school with. It was like people I worked in restaurants, man.
Yeah.
And my thing is that pisses me off is we talk the hypocrisy. I hate hypocrisy. Right, we talk about entrepreneurship in this country. We talk about small business in this country. Why are you giving fucking KFC fucking $10 million?
Yep. Right.
What the fuck, man? Like, that's not nobody's getting healed at KFC. Matter of fact, they're getting killed. I hope I don't get sued, but like, it's just like it's like bad fucking food, man.
Yeah,
I eat that shit, but I'm just saying, I'm not. But like, that's not like, it's not. And to your point, like. So there's a little restaurant in my town I live in right now. They called and like they called us, me and my wife, like a week ago, like, hey, we want your home address. We're sending out holiday cards, right? Like fucking like because like we went there, like we used to go there like once a month at least, and it was BYOB, and I'd bring killer bottles because I'm a black wine guy, and I'm looking around, and I live in this town, I live in an area that's
bougie. It's bougie.
It's fucking no, it's not bougie because there's not enough black people for it to be bougie. It's fucking just affluent, and I look around and look at everybody's bullshit bottles and shit, like literally, oh my god, somebody had. Whole Foods sells this bullshit called 3 Wishes is $2.99.
Oh man!
Somebody brought a fucking $2.99 bottle of wine to this restaurant. I was like, if I was the waiter, I'd be like, you got to get the fuck out.
That sounds like elevated $3 chuck.
Yeah, it's not even elevated $3 chuck. It's like American wine. It doesn't even have a fucking appellation. It's American wine. And then I look around and I'm like, oh, look at your little bottle of Josh, right? And I got some serious like sick shit. And I'm like, what's this? Right? I'm like, But anyway, like I was like, oh my God. Like that wasn't a ploy, like, please come. Like we went and sat outside one night, they had the heaters, we did takeout. But that literally is like your point of being a hub of the community, right? And they're like, oh, these people love food and wine. We're gonna send them a holiday. Like that, like I was like, oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're right. And so yeah, I mean something Bobby Stuckey has been an incredible leader in this, and he did a post today. Like they passed some bullshit, not enough. Like when you're talking about entrepreneurship, small business. It's restaurants is like 80% of that fucking
it's it.
field.
It's it.
You kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, anyway.
And yeah, the education that comes, like no offense, right? You're not saying KFC is not teaching me anything about, but at the same time, you know, you're coming to a place like I said, Toscano, and we're gonna teach you about, you know, Michael's culinary, you know, voyage, and you're gonna learn about Italian wines and maybe have some cool like, you know, French natural wines as well, and that's what this is, and enjoy yourself and have a good time and be not pretentious about it, right? Because that's always been I hate the pretentiousness. I hate it.
Yeah. Well, I do too.
Yeah.
And yet I play the games. I like to turn it on its head. It's fun. But I do hate it. I'm like, come on, man. Like my thing, like if you look at my Instagram, like I'll have like someone sent me some wine. Oh my God. Don Patz and Hall sent me some wine. So the other day, like and I do research, but I just like, all right, I'm having a burger. I'm having burgers. I want a Cabernet. Nice. So I'm open this bottle of Cabernet. Like my brother-in-law, what are you drinking tonight? And I'm like, he's like, oh, how much that cost? I had to look it up. It was a fucking $175 bottle of wine with the burger.
Nice, right?
That's how I like to do it.
Right.
like I don't even need the fancy meal. Just give me a great wine and a burger. I'm simple.
Yeah. Fried chicken and grower champagne is still my favorite pairing.
I'll say, get a bucket of KFC and some Jacques-Son or some Pierre Peters.
Oh, man, now we're talking.
No, actually, I fry better chicken than fucking KFC. So that's not happening. I haven't had KFC in years. And I hate that I like Chick-fil-A because of their political stance, but it's a damn good chicken sandwich.
I've never had their chicken. I've never had their stuff. I know because
I know. You shouldn't.
Right, but everybody's kind of like, but just one day. Just go do it one day.
It is a good sandwich. All right, so let's talk about.
Put your values to the side.
Exactly.
Just one day.
Just. It's chicken. Chicken ain't voting for nobody. Chicken's on the flavor ticket. It's like, eat me. Tell me about this restaurant. So very interesting. So they're in Charleston, South Carolina, and space is open. They come back.
Yeah, space is open. They come back, and they never envisioned it, and he's like, we're here to try to change the hospitality game. We want, it was kind of one of the most anticipated openings because he was there to have that. It's that comeback story. Like he was there as a partner chef, Perla, when it was like 90s hip hop blaring, and now here he is coming back years later, more grown up, with second child, married with one restaurant under his belt. So now he's like, I want to create that same energy and vibe, but I want to do it in a more adult fashion. So, they've got gorgeous artwork that hangs on the wall from a guy named Isaac Mann, who was a server. All the light fixtures, all these kind of beautiful little touches that kind of make it super unique.
It's so crazy when you're getting into that's it, the touches, right? Like really the community, like he works in the community and this artist. So yeah, I'm loving this.
Yeah, they brought the candles that were scented in the bathroom were from a place nearby them in Charleston that was a custom fragrance that we now have. And, so there was a lot of kind of like Charleston accents, but still bringing that New York vibe. And the whole point, it was like, we're going to create a white tablecloth, 3 Michelin-starred service, but have fun. I still to this day, I think that one of the best, and I think it captured us so well, we had a guest that wrote a review and said, you guys have managed to do fine dining and fun dining all in one. And that is like, that to me is, that's the space I want to be in, where both are happening. We're elevated, we're having an experience, but we're also going to have fun and enjoy ourselves. And because we also understand that like, that's what this is all about. Drinking wine and dining, some of the most pleasurable things you can do while you're alive. I would
2
say.
out of the top 3.
Yeah,
And we all know what the third is. It's true.
Yeah.
I didn't create us.
Yeah.
I surrendered to my nature. But then how do you go from like this girl from the DR living in Hoboken to fucking Beverage Director of the Year?
God is good. God is good. I say, the universe, I work hard. I've been doing this for some time. I think there's a lot of people who may say like, oh, she just got here, and like, our friend Lee Campbell, and she said, you've been doing this for quite some time, and people now are finally getting to know who you are, and that's what this has presented. And I think that what, the writers of Esquire, one of the guys who was responsible for the article, had a podcast, and he was saying how Toscano, he came to us in July to dine. He had reservations because we opened February 6th.
Yeah, I know.
And then the world changed.
I know.
5 to 6 weeks after that, and he was, we were on his list and on his radar, and he's like, he had reservations like March 17th. So lo and behold, that never happened. So here he is, his first dining experience out. He lives up in Hudson Valley. And, jazz music is playing. He brings his daughter who's going off to school. They have this dinner, and, he's got, Michael coming to the table to talk about his food journey and like things like a porchetta cubano and the pasta and why he's incorporating these flavors. I'm coming in to pair wines with this moment, and he's just like, I know that the restaurant's not perfect. Like none of them are, but there's so much heart there. And that, to me, that there's just no other way to do this for me, So that's it. You bring the heart. The purpose, the why. Like why do we wake up and do this every day?
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And I remember when I had my first wine job in California, in Montecito. That's where Oprah lives. In case y'all don't know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She wasn't living there then, but I still live there when she's there. But like my boss told me, he's like, people don't buy from the company, they buy from you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's you, right? Like, it's like, how do you make people feel, right? Listen to Maya Angelou. People won't remember what you said, they remember how you make you feel.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously, this guy's life doesn't suck because he lives in Hudson Valley and he's coming down with his daughter who's going off to college, probably to Ivy League. And like, but you made him feel something.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
So,
and that's it. It doesn't, there's still parts of me that have, to embrace this whole beverage director of the year thing. It's huge. It's like, oh my God, this is like incredible.
Yeah, that's like
big deal.
The sexiest person year. Like you think of like the list, right? Like the sexiest person year, number one wine of the year. Like it's like I mean, it's like the MVP of the league. I mean, it's you're at the top of your field.
Yeah, and there's times like as myself as I'm no one's going to be harder on me than me, but it's also why I'm here.
Right.
It's also why I'm literally sitting here right now because it's just I will always push myself and always be up for the challenge. And it's like, oh my God, my wine list doesn't have this, and I'll pick things apart. But it's the beverage director, it's the story, it's I've always said major part of our hospitality, in our resume is the storyteller. Mm-hmm. I'm a storyteller. I'm a translator. Like this, that it came in the bottle, this 2014 Chinon. I'm here to translate that year, that vintage. What does it taste like? What was happening? What were you feeling? What it's pairing with? That's what we're here to do. It's to translate these stories and communicate them to someone. And if that means we have to, use the fancy, flinty minerality and least contact and batonnage, and we do it that. Some people want that, and some people also want to say, you know what, this is amazing, and you're gonna love it with this plate of burnt eggplant that we have here with figs and pickled habanero peppers, and that some people want that.
Yeah, and I find a lot more people want me to say, oh man, that shit was fucking delicious. Buy it.
And then there's
I could be like, oh my God, it's got macerated Macedonian black cherry and Peruvian liquor. All right, and it could have all that.
Yeah.
And I do that from time to time, but most of the time I'm like, oh, fucking ridiculous amounts of fruit, gobs of fruit, but then it's harsh, cuts across the palate. And you're right, and knowing how to do that deftly and appropriately. I really love what you said. Like you took fine dining and fun dining, and just that person who said that, and there is like that's the perfect Venn diagram of a meal, right?
Yeah,
it's like fun, fine,
right.
I mean, I don't know if you can do any better than that. So I really don't.
I agree.
I agree. So I've asked this question of a few people, and and you somms are a tough crowd because you're such storytellers. But like, if you had to name a bottle of wine, like just what bottle of wine like rocked your world, that you're like, holy shit, this is it. I'm all in with this wine thing. What wine would that be?
That kind of started me on my journey.
Yeah.
I would say, like again, I said there was a few bottles, but I would say I had a Santa when I was again in that world of private events and catering. And I think that also, now that I think about it, it's made my story unique because so many people have those things happening to them in restaurants, or I staged here, or I was a server or back waiter here. I started as a busboy, and there was Burgundy left in the glass.
Exactly.
And
and I'm like married to Glenn. I'm like in the back, like, oh, this is so good. Yeah, no, right. Exactly.
But here I am. I'm having because we're tending to people who come from a certain status in life that they're able to collect, and there's something even more precious about that it's like this guy's like cracking open first growth Bordeaux at his dinner party, and it's just like, here, have some. And I remember just being in his
what was this Saint-Emilion?
That's the thing, I don't remember the producer. I can sit here and probably describe the bottle to you in the moment. I can tell you that it was a cold, wintry night in January. Okay. It was a Sunday night. Mm-hmm. I was on Hudson Street in Hoboken. It was 17 years ago, around the island in the kitchen, because they had the downstairs room was like their.
This is before Island. This is before HGTV was all popular and everybody needed to have like. This is like you need to get the island came from like wealthy people had islands for decades, right? Because that's how the houses were constructed. Exactly.
And Hoboken has that Hudson Street, which is all these historic homes. Yep. So the basement or the level is like, I think like the nanny. This was her area where she lived. Right. So we're there because that's like our staging area. It was the maid
or nanny's quarters.
Right?
Yes,
exactly. Yes. So we're there. Tasting this, Saint-Emilion that he was just like, he's proud of his collection. And he was just like, good job, guys. Have some of this. And he's telling, and I'm just like, oh my God. I smell, like pencil shavings, and wow, like my mouth is watering, but it's like really dry. And, I could sit here and tell you, like, it was probably 10 o'clock at night. Mm-hmm. Like, I can tell you everything that happened, but the producer, it slips me. But that's the power of wine.
Well, that is the power of wine.
That it transports us, and the power of a meal or yes. wine, it transports us.
Yes, it does. It does transport us. Well, there you have it, everybody. You just need to have a bottle of Saint-Emilion around the island in some rich person's house on the Hudson River looking at Manhattan, and you can become Beverage Director of the Year. So it's probably not going to happen for most of you, but still, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Lee, for being here. Oh, my God. Thank you. I mean, we're out of time, but you know what? Anybody who's on season 1 is a friend of the show, and it's going to be back on. So we can't wait to hear what you're up to. And tell people how they can find you, Lee.
Maddie.
Oh, my God. Wow. See, it's not just white people who think we all look alike.
Oh, my God.
I'm so lit right now. I need to have I usually stop and get a Chick-fil-A sandwich, but
man.
I didn't. Oh, my God, Madeline
Yes.
Maldonado.
I take
Maddie.
Such a compliment. Lee
I
is
know.
For another person
Well,
I've been my mentor.
That's so just perfect to wrap up season 1.
Isn't it, right?
It's so fucking funny. Madeline, how can people find you?
Yeah, I'm a little Instagram. I'm still building the Instagram thing.
Yeah, but listen, say where you are, because that's where my people on Instagram, they're gonna follow you. You're gonna get like, you're gonna get like.
I love it. Yeah. Somm3M, looking to build a better handle, and that's it. That's all I got for you.
Oh my God. Too funny. Way to drop the ball in the end zone, MJ. Way to miss the free throw at the end, but that's all good. I can laugh at myself. So. Guys, until next season, this is a cheers to the Mavericks, the philosophers, the deep thinkers, and of course the wine drinkers. It's your boy MJ. Thanks for listening. Peace.